or studying is important, followed by the contemplation and what we discuss together. And I appreciate that you are your mind is changing because repeat listening helps to first it dissolves the confusion. Second, it clears the mind. Third, after the knowledge is internalized, it makes us, it brings that clarity. And fifth, we can easily start applying, translating these principles into our daily life. So when we translate, we have a new experiences. The freshness and calmness replaces our anxiety, our fatigue, and the tiredness. It is very important. Fact is that once we understand this is a mouse, so by listening, I now learn by listening that this is a mouse. Now, what happens if I go into meditative state? There is no thought. Now, can without a thought I can get a knowledge of the mouse? Answer is no. So, in one tradition, we say that empty your mind, the knowledge will be revealed. Okay, knowledge will be revealed, but I don't have any expression in the language, so I don't know what it is. Hence, listening and learning, contemplation and reflection are very much required. Understand it clearly. Otherwise, what happens in meditation? I have imaginative experiences, hallucinations, which I take for granted that this is what the highest consciousness, and we start living in that hallucinations that does not lead us to removal of ignorance. And that is why we will let us do at least for 5 minutes. So that is why I speak a lot in the Shanti mantra. It is because knowledge should be internalized. Close your eyes and be. Close your eyes. And the first thing I say, being comfortable. So, what is the meaning of being comfortable? I take you from the physical to the subtle, to the subtler, to the subtlest aspect. It, if you don't listen to it, your mind cannot become subtle. Oh, I'm comfortable, that's all. And our reference point is only the body. So see that. Eyes are closed gently. The mind is a doer, checks. The body is comfortable. And being comfortable is an experience of sensation. There has to be a sensation to recognize being comfortable. And in that being comfortable, we have steadiness. No, but what is the ultimate cause? Let me explore it. So when I explore, I find the thoughts are left outside pertaining to the body. I'm explaining again in a different way. Because once we have a right knowledge, there is no misconception. You can explain your landscaping in variety of ways because you are 100% clear. Clarity and conviction is there. Oh, I got it. So I find the space and then I say this space is awareness. And awareness is the space. Means in spite of mind, the surface mind is running with the thought, I internalize the knowledge and I find comfort is there. On the other side, I also reveal there is an objectless state even with millions of objects in the mind. So, this is how masters explain a lower and a higher consciousness. It is the same consciousness, but we have to define it. And we define it's a lower consciousness attached to the body. And when it is I am the body, then there is an attachment, there is a sorrow and the suffering. Now there is a shift of consciousness, shift of awareness. I am the body, no. What I am, we are exploring. Did I summarize the teaching until now? Yes. How it can come, we have a lot of confusion that we remove. That's why we are learning. Asatu ma sat namaya. Now the mind starts singing Asatu ma sat namaya. Asatu ma sat namaya. Simple translation: lead us from false to the real. And we have understood. Now see, the false is constantly changing. My mind reveals the body is changing, mind is changing, intellect is changing, that I keeps changing. Also, there is some other entity which is not changing, is the real self. Oh, so we got the first definition of the real self. You see, not only understanding, internalization also helps us to reveal, oh, there is some entity that is not changing. I have been confused and I have been using that I has changed. I am in stress. I am happy. That same I has changed from the stress to happiness. Again, I am upset. Oh, this I is constantly changing, associated with the body, mind, breath, intellect, thoughts, feeling, reaction, anxiety, and a long list, my friend. Oh, so we are exploding. So when the mind sets its understanding on the real versus the false, real versus the false, something intuitively happens. How it happens? I'm taking your commitment of repeat listening and learning. So you see how these masters explain the same verse differently. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Oh, let us move from ignorance to wisdom. I have been ignorant about being comfortable at the physical level, then at the mental level. Now I have a realization because of internalization that comfort is always there, superimposed by the false identity with, explain, with the changing, with the body, with the mind, with the intellect, with the ego, with the thought. Mrityormamritam gamaya. Mrityorma amritam gamaya. Mrityorama Amritangamaya, lead us from mortality to immortality. Does my mind inspire, motivated, and what is this? Oh, I don't have a fear of the death. Answer is no. I'm moving from the mortality because that I consciousness is shifting from the fear or the death to the immortality, the freedom from the death. When we listen again, reflect on it, it gives us totally another perspective of the journey of the spirituality, the self-discovery. So every master has their own way. Why? Because they have to personalize the teaching. And in that state, now you can open the eyes and we can return. We have 18 chapters in the Gita. Understand in a different way. The first 6 chapters explain what is real self and what is the individual self. What kind of a self effort that I should make in everyday life to evolve. So there is a who is the real self? What is the real self as compared to the false self? And what effort I should make? Pay attention. I'm giving another perspective of this first 6 chapters. So you can collect all those perspectives which I have been talking about. Because you told me you had a repeat listening for a couple of times. And I appreciate that is the genuine way of becoming seekers. Real self versus the individual self. Individual self is the false self. What I will get out of it, I will know the nature of the real self. I already know the nature of the false self is guided by the RSM syndrome. No, then what should I do? I have to do the karma yoga. Okay. So karma yoga, I should bring about an attitudinal change inside my mind and emotions to perform my actions in daily life. What about the other 6 chapters from the chapter number 7 to 11? Instead of real self, we discover what exactly is the supreme self. You can say God. We have different ways of understanding. There is a God, there is an Ishwar, and there is a Brahm. So Brahm is known as the ultimate reality, the fundamental, you can say the fundamental God. And then we say there is a God without name in the form. So formless God is known as Ishwar, and God with a name in the form is known as the God, like Krishna, Rama, Jesus. You can say that. Now here, what happens? The second element. In the first 6 chapters, we have to continue to make the effort to reach to the highest level of a seeker. Okay, I have reached to the highest level of a seeker. So then what will happen into the next 6 chapters? Instead of making an effort, now I rely more and more on grace, blessing. But why shouldn't I start with the grace and the blessing? Because I'm close to it. I'm close to it. Why I'm close to it? Because of the RSM syndrome. That is why I have to make an effort. Gita is a song of life. Once we understand it, we understand ourselves. So you see the difference between the two groups of 6 chapters. The first 6 chapters goes on explaining the nature of the real self, so that I can start going too far away from the individual self. So I'm dissolving the RSM syndrome. But no, I have to continue to make an effort. Now, what happens in the next six chapters, 7 to 12? My effort is replaced by the blessing and the grace of the God. What does it mean? Then I should stop doing action? No, you are all more active. But your actions are balanced, harmonized, rationalized. You have no conflict in the confusion in performing. What is an action? Your thought, your speech, your action. Such a beautiful way Krishna, the master teacher, or we say the God, with the name and the form, has explained. But there is a third thing here. In the first six chapters, we are doing the practices of meditation, different practices. In the next six chapters, now we will ask the mind to focus on only one meditation with a different mantras, with a different form in the form, name in the form. Why? Now we have accepted the God with the name and the form to evolve myself. Not to stick on that God, but to move to the Ishwar, the God without the name and the form. No, but I have to go to the ultimate to reach to the Supreme Consciousness. But normally we talk about many masters, and normally every master talks about the word upasana is used to focus the mind. Because when we are a non-seeker, we say, yes, let us focus the mind. But the real reason is, what about the next six chapters from the chapter 13 to 18? You see how they are designed. Now, still the doubt comes and there is a confusion. Is the real self same with the Supreme Consciousness or the God and the Ishwar, or different? Until I resolve this doubt, there is no question of awakening. We may have certain awakening experiences, but we still have a doubt. So we resolve all the differences, doubts left in the third chapter. Is the real self different from the Supreme Consciousness or so-called the God? If they are different, so it means there are two entities. There is a lower entity and there is the highest entity. So there will always remain a doubt in me. I do not reach to that awakened state. Oh, I have to resolve that difference. So is there are both one? There is a oneness, there is only one unitary consciousness? I'm deviating to, I would say, 16th chapter. That is how we have to remember by repeat listening. So what happens? I'm conscious. Yes, I'm a conscious individual. So I'm conscious, and so I'm consciousness. And if any entity is greater and higher than me, they have to be conscious. So they are also consciousness. So how do you say, I have a consciousness and the God also has a consciousness, but the consciousness is only one? Then what happens? The God manifests through me as an individual. There I find that unitary consciousness is the final goal of, that is, we have to keep track of this during this journey. If we don't keep track of this journey, we still continue to live in ignorance. Now come back to the chapter 2. From 11th verse to another, you can say the 20 verses indicate why we are not worthy of suffering. That was the topic. But no, I have to extract the knowledge, because Master is hinting, indicating that there are six 6 characteristics of this real self that we have to extract. But his main focus remains that you are not worthy of the suffering. But behind the scene, sometimes we say behind the scene, this guy cheated me. Cheated means, behind the scene, not cheated in front of me. We don't use the word cheating. So here the Krishna is little bit mystical. He says, no, you have to find out. You have to discover. So what we discover, there are the 6 characteristics of the real self. In the midst of RSM syndrome, when we recognize it, what a relief we get it. So what is the first characteristic of this real self? It is eternal. So that is explained in the 12th verse and the 13th verse. What is truth? Explained in that is the second characteristic, the truth. What is eternal? Real self is eternal. Real self is real, or the truth. That is explained in the verse number 16. So we will keep our eye. Oh, this is how he has explained it. So I have to juggle around, I have to internalize the knowledge, and there the repeat listening will always help us. The verse number 17 explains that the real self is all pervading. It is present everywhere. And verse number 18 explains real self cannot be objectified. It cannot become an object of knowledge, object of perception. If anything becomes an object of perception, then it should have a name in the form. And if it has the name in the form, it cannot be me. And the verse number 19 explains that that real self is neither the doer or the experiencer. It is happening all in the field of ego. And the ego relies on RSM syndrome. Anytime, anywhere, I become as a doer and the enjoyer, I am lost. Even in the moment of pleasure, even in the moment of peace and happiness, because I have given credit to peace and happiness to some object, some person, some thing, some situation, has some event. So that verse number 19. And another, I would say, verse number 20 explains that the real self is beyond any modification, beyond any change. So there are normally 6 modifications. Any object exists, any object is born, second modification. Any object grow. Money, how much money I have in the bank account? I have couple of $1,000. You have millions of dollars. So it changes. So it grows or it doesn't grow. It's like with the body. And growth and the change are 2 different things. Changes takes place. So first existence, it shows that it exists. Like my body and my body. I see you, body exists. I see you, see me. I see your body exists. But it has taken a birth. Second change. It grows. Constantly grows. That's why I have a long gray beard. And then it also undergoes a change. Growth and the change are 2 aspects. And then it decays. Every object of the name and the form decays. And ultimately it comes to an end, so-called the death. So real self is free from these 6 changes, modifications in our. Oh, that is the message Master is giving us.
What were the 6? I got 4. What were the 6?
Six modification. The first is I become aware that it exists in the form of name and the form. Second, it has taken a birth. Third is it grows. Our body has grown maybe 5 foot 11 inch or 6 feet. After that, it stops growing. But at the same time, the fourth change is it is constantly changing. Internal changes are taking place. Every 7 years, every cell undergoes a change. Can you imagine? More than 3,000 years ago, Master talked about this when the science was not there. We talk about metabolism, we talk about anabolism and the catabolism. As we grow older, our catabolic process becomes more. So the fifth change is decay. Catabolism means decaying. And the sixth change is the death of the body. So Master uses the very simple words. Oh, so real self is eternal, real self is truth, real self is all pervading, real self cannot be objectified, it cannot become the object of perception, it is neither a doer and the experiencer, and it does not undergo any. Oh, it is always constant. Yes, it is always constant. Because it is always constant, hence it cannot be perceived by my senses. Sense organ and the mind can only see in terms of the change. No, I did not understand. No. I see the light, I see the mouse in the presence of the light, and now there is an absence of the mouse. Light is still there, light does not go under change. I missed the point. What I missed the point, I have objectified my mind to see the mouse alone, and I have forgotten in the presence of the light I am seeing the mouse. So that perception. Now, what is that light of the consciousness coming through my eyes does not change. Why it does not change? That light of the consciousness through my eyes is looking at you, looking at the wall, the great paintings, and listening to you. But that is the light of the consciousness, is independent of all the sense organs. No, we will do that. No worries, because I have to repeat it again and again. These principles. So when we go to the verse number 11, Asuchyan anvasucha tvam prajnavada cha bhasase gatasun agatasun chananu sochanti pandita. Now your mind is clarifying what the entire Eastern wisdom is saying with reference to those 6 so-called characteristics of the real self. Now, we are understanding again the 11th sutra. You should not grieve, for you are grieving. You should not grieve, you should not suffer. For those you are grieving, why? And yet you speak, you are speaking the words of the wisdom. For the dead and for the living, the wise never grieve. 6th number. The not real self, false self, undergoes the 6 modifications. I do not do any modifications. So we are extracting, this is what it is. This is what it is. The way we have extracted the light, in the presence of the light, I see the mouse. But in the presence of the light, there is a light of the consciousness going through the sense organ. That does not undergo a change. If that undergoes a change by looking at the mouse, then I will also see you, that you are a different variation of the mouse. That consciousness is not attached. Then I will see either, I'm attached to the painting behind you, and I will say, okay, so my eyes that consciousness has already undergone a change. It's a very subtle message. Very, very subtle message. Wise do not grieve or suffer. Wise do not grieve or suffer. The verse number 12, if we go to the verse number 12, not at any time indeed was I not. So I'm referring to the light of the consciousness. So here I'll give an example. that makes us easy to understand. Oh, that light of the consciousness. Anytime, anywhere I wake up in the morning and I see my consciousness going through the eyes into the world, and I become aware. I have a knowledge of the light and the fan and you and the me and the different objects of perception. But that consciousness is not the object of perception. That is I am. So what happens? I see that and I don't see that. I don't see it directly through my sense organs in the mind, and still I'm aware. I see it. Without the consciousness, I cannot recognize any object outside in the world. So that is explained in the verse number 12. Not any time, indeed, was I not, nor you, nor any person and object in the world, nor even shall we cease to be. Consciousness remains all pervading. We are explaining the characteristics of the real self. In the verse number 13, the Master gives a very strong understanding. This real self passes physically through the childhood, youth, and the old age. Like she was just saying that I'm a big kid. She was a small kid. The body is changing, but that I in her does not change. We are looking for that I. That is why. So Master says extract the what is right and good. That consciousness. So what is the meaning? Deho dehin asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara. Body passes through. Body passes through being an infant and child and the youth and the old age. As it passes on, it is the changes of the body, the self. The self, the seeker, recognizes that I did not change throughout the years of changes in the body. Oh, so there is no reason to be disturbed. And even the death comes, it is the death of the body. Go back to the 6 attributes of the real self you remember. Is neither inside. So it means what? It means what? All pervading means what? Real self is all pervading means what? Take a simple example. It is neither inside the body, not outside. Oh, but I have always thought that the real self is always inside. Inside means what? Inside the body, but body is changing, and I'm not the body. How can you say that it is inside the body, not outside? So here we understand that it is neither inside nor outside the body. Then only it can be all pervading. Otherwise, there is no way it becomes all pervading. Oh, that's a good way to think and contemplate. But why? So we are breaking that ignorance that I am the body. How? It is not the part, it is not the property, it is not the product of the body, it is independent. It is not the part, property, and the product of the body. It pervades the body and is all pervading. I see the mouse. Means the light is pervading the entire mouse along with its boundary. Then I have a knowledge of the mouse. The same thing, consciousness is pervading the entire body. Pervading means it is present in every cell of the body. How do you know that? You have a pain in the right big toe, you become aware. You have a pain in the head, you become aware. Yes, it is present there. No, but I see you, it is pervading there. Then only I can see you, I feel you. Yes, that is why the consciousness is all pervading. It is not a part, product, and property of the body. Body mind reflects that real self. Now another understanding. No problem. I'll repeat it again and again, but I'm summarizing this word. Body and the mind reflects that real self. Reflects. You have a mirror and the sunlight falls on it. So what is that mirror? Is the mind with the body, reflects that consciousness, body and mind. So it is reflected into the mind, but the mind cannot exist without the body. So we use the word body and the mind. Reflects that real self, and it becomes a reflected consciousness. We need a medium. What is the medium? Is the mind supported by the body. What about the real self? Real self is still independent. Why you are suffering? Because of you claim the reflected consciousness that creates an I-ness which you claim. No. Which you claim as I am. And from there the identification with the body comes, and I am the body. But the body is changing. During our discussion for the last 5 minutes, millions of the cells are replaced by the new cells. We are not aware of it. Change is constantly taking place. Metabolic processes are taking place, but I am still existing. The same means I am not the body. If anything is proved by the ignorance, so what is proved by the ignorance? I am the body. And if it is falsified by the knowledge, it is not a real self, it is the false self. It is the false self. What it indicates. Now you see, find out the characteristics of the real self. It is all pervading, it is eternal, it is not the object of perception, and it does not undergo the 6 modifications. It is all pervading. All the definition fits here. That is what we want to discover. We want to live into that all the time. Oh, what that means, awakening. That right understanding is not possible to all the seekers. And here we can give a gradation to the lower seekers. It has to be a higher seeker who does the repeat listening, who does the contemplation. You start with the belief on the knowledge, and then you repeat listening, then you contemplate and reflect, and that knowledge is internalized. Otherwise, nothing is going to happen. The moment you internalize, you are already absorbed into the state of meditation. There's a kind of self-absorption. So we are talking of meditation anywhere, anytime. Now look from another point of view that verse. What conclusion is that if that is so, if these are the 6 characteristics of the real self, then is sorrow, grief, suffering is a possibility? Answer is no. And if it is a possibility, then it cannot be removed by thought, feeling, action, practice. It cannot be removed. Simply you take a glass of lemon water and say, now I feel relaxed. So it goes away by just a glass of water. Now I feel relaxed. But the hunger or the thirst is the property of the breath and the energy. Energy is less, that's why the body is feeling thirsty. But it has nothing to do with the consciousness. So sorrow is not a possibility in our life. Suffering is not a possibility. No, but still I experience that. I experience because of delusion, because of ignorance, because of the RSM syndrome, because of I is associated with the body. We have already discussed the universal cause of the death, personal cause of the sorrow and the grief, social cause of the sorrow and the grief. We have to repeat these understandings so that we link it with the knowledge that we are learning. Neither real self nor the self cause. Real self is not the cause of the sorrow. Body cannot be the cause of the sorrow. So the sorrow lives in delusion. Suffering lives in delusion. If they combine, is the cause of the sorrow. Means when the matter and the consciousness comes in contact with each other, what is created, which is known as the mind, intellect, ego, memory. And that entity as an individual self says you are suffering. Why? Because body is suffering. You are upset. Why? Because somebody insulted you. That is also the mind. Oh, look at it. When the matter and the consciousness comes in contact, there is a creation. That bridge, you can say the mind, intellect, ego, etc., the thought. So that thought creates an opinion about myself that I'm suffering because he or she left me. I'm enjoying because he or she has living with me and my expectations are fulfilled. Go back to the RSM syndrome. That's why Krishna, the master, discussed in detail in the first chapter matter and the consciousness. Now next question comes, can the can the mouse be mixed with the water? No, water has a different property and a mouse has a different properties. It cannot be mixed up. Why I am saying so? Can the matter and the consciousness be mixed up? No, it cannot be mixed up. Matter is inert, it is unconscious, it is not all pervading, it is constantly changing, and the consciousness is all pervading. Those six attributes, they cannot mix up. But then what happens? Why you are saying? They comes in contact, it means there is a mixing up. No, there is no mixing up. There is a superimposition. As the window is superimposed by the curtain, the sunlight is not affected. Huh? Yes, sunlight is not affected, that I know. Same way, that real self is not affected, whatever is happening in the body, mind, intellect, and the ego. So we use the word, instead of mixing, we say superimposed. That is a big word. It is because of the superimposition we are suffering. Matter or not, this matter is superimposed on the real self. How come you know? That is why I say that I am the body and the mind. That is why I say that I am suffering because of you. That is why I am saying that I am happy with you. That is why I am saying I have a lot of stress today. That is why I am saying I have lost everything in my life. There is no entity as such which we say I, caused by the mixing up. Here I'm using the word superimposition. There is no, the curtain on the window cannot affect the sunlight in any way. The superimposition of the matter or the individual self cannot in any way destroy that light, sunlight, the consciousness. So here we have to understand the superimposition is not mixing up. Mixing up means, unless you have properties of two and more than two objects are similar, then we can say that it can mix up. So it is an overlapping. How it is overlapping? How it is overlapping? So here, that superimposition we have to understand with an example of a red hot iron ball. Iron is black, iron is always cool, but when I say red hot iron ball is the superimposition. The fire takes the shape of the iron ball, and the iron ball takes the form of a fire which appears as a hot, which appears as a red. You leave the iron ball for some time, the iron ball returns to its own nature, and the fire returns to its own nature. It has no shape. It has no shape. Means what? The real self, as though, I'm using the word as though, takes some properties of the body, and the body and the mind takes some properties of the real self. What property of the real self? I will never die. And then I have a fear of that the body dies. Body dies, my goodness. Such a superimposition. That superimposition is known as a greater ignorance. Ignorance is caused by the superimposition. We already understood matter and the consciousness cannot mix up. But why it is happening to me? Because I think in a very limited way. What is thinking in a limited way? Because I rely on the effect. How I rely on the effect? I say, I'm speaking. Don't you see that? No, you are not speaking. This is the lips and the tongue and the larynx are all because all the matter. Matter cannot speak. Matter is not conscious. Matter does not know itself. So I see myself in a very limited, constricted way because I claim that effect is the real self. No. In any knowledge, it is the cause, is the ultimate reality. So it means the effect of my lips are moving because of my mind. Mind has borrowed consciousness from the real self. The mind is also a reflected consciousness that is also an effect due to the cause. And what is the ultimate cause is the real self. It is the pure consciousness. It is the pure. That is another explanation of the same verse 12. That is how we need to understand. Personalize the teaching. Real self always exists in 3 periods of time. Say real self exists in 3 periods of time. That is why it is all pervading. That is why it is eternal. So what I speak today with reference to the body and the mind, change tomorrow, change day after, means I'm speaking a lie. Why I'm speaking a lie? Because what is lie and false keeps changing. So what it means, the real self is beyond time and the space. What it means, real self and that consciousness is all pervading. So what it means that real self, that consciousness exists in 3 periods of time. But it is not affected by 3 periods of time. That is the nature of the real self. Look at how we have to extract that knowledge. Each verse demands and needs an explanation, patient listening, repeat listening. Repeat listening. So let us find another way to see the real self and the false. Anything that is false borrows its existence from the real self. And the real self is totally independent. That is the meaning of the real self and the false self. This body is nothing but matter, carbohydrate, protein, vitamin, and minerals. It has borrowed its existence from the mind, and the mind has borrowed its existence from the consciousness, which is the real self, which is all pervading. Hence, the body and the mind complex depends on the consciousness. That is why it is false. The real self is not false because it is independent. Whether the body lives or not, whether the mind is in a sleeping state, waking state, or in a dream state, that a consciousness continues to exist. Hence, the real self is totally independent. That is why we say it is the real self. What is non-existence? What does not exist? Can it be proved? No, it cannot be proved. We have already done it. Does the real self contains this sorrow? No. Does the matter contains this sorrow? No. There is no possibility. So where it contains in delusion. What we need to do, we need to know. The knowledge removes that sorrow and the grief. We have already understood. If the body is the real self, means before birth of the body, I was not. If the body is the real self, before the birth I am not, but the real self is always exists. So it is difficult, if it is difficult to prove in a waking state because of my experiences, what about dream in the sleep state? We are not aware of the body, to where I have gone. No, but I exist. After waking up, I still exist. It means there is some entity which is different than the waking, dream, and the sleep state that exists. That is what the real self is. In deep sleep, there is consciousness present. No, but I don't remember it. I don't know it. Yes, because mind is also sleeping. There has to be a reflected medium. So that reflected medium is absent. That's why I don't know it. But still I have a memory of that. So from where that memory comes, memory comes from the causal body. Deeper inside the mental, the subtle body, there is a causal body, and causal body reflected the consciousness. It contains the memory. The moment I wake up from the causal body, that memory returns to a waking state of the mind, and the mind says, "Oh, I had a sound sleep." Oh, that consciousness is all. Same thing with the dream. Look at it. There is a dreamer in the dream body. Pay attention. In the dreamer, actual physical body keeps lying down, and we are aware of that in the dream state. Dreamer is aware, and the dreamer creates another body which is constantly moving, fighting with the tiger. You have a lot of hallucinations. Oh my goodness, yes, dreamer has the two bodies. That's why I feel my body is working, my body is fighting, my body is chasing the tiger, or I have a fear. Look at the superimposition. Oh, it means, but what happens to that dream body when I wake up? It is gone. So which one is the real body? The dream body or this physical body in a waking state? Nothing is real. Both are false. Both are false. Why? They depend on the consciousness, depend on the mind. It is because of the superimposition we cannot be the body. We cannot be the body. So it means only one consciousness is aware of the walking body, the dream body, the sleep body. We get a break through the mind because the mind lives in ignorance. What break we get it? The waker body does not know what is the dream body. The dream body does not know what is the sleeper body. The sleeper body does not know what is the waker body. It is because of the mind. Consciousness is already present there behind it. And if the body is the real self, then it should be aware of all the three states, which is not. If body is the real self, then the waking body should also be aware of the dream body, should also be aware of the sleep body, which is not there. We are learning from our experiences. So then what? Then we have a three eye. Yes, we have a waker eye, we have a sleeper eye, we have a dreamer eye. Is it possible that we can live with the three eyes? Modern psychology says split personality, schizophrenia. We are already living into that state. That goes when the normal social adjustment is not possible, then we say you are in a schizophrenia state. We are already living in a schizophrenia. That we call a normal state. That is not a normal state, that is already an abnormal state because of the RSM syndrome. We are already living with a split personality. Honey, why didn't you do this? And then another customer comes and my tone goes very soft. No, I'll talk to you later, so let me take a payment. So even in the waking state, I use my intelligence cleverly because I'm attached. I'm attached because I'm firing a person. I'm attached because I'm loving a person. That love is an attachment. I have already covered the attachment versus love. You can go to that audio again. So I'm neither the physical body, nor the subtle body, nor the causal bodies. I am pure consciousness. Simply just talking intellectually doesn't make any change in our life. But going very deep, understanding it, I'm now very clear that I'm not the physical body, I'm not the mental subtle body, I'm not the causal body, I'm none of these three states. We have to go and repeat it again. We have to dig deep inside what exactly is the waking state. Can the consciousness still exist in the dream state and the sleep state? Once we have recognized it, realized it, we are already awakened. We have already understood that. Was the body present before the date of the birth? Yes, it was present in the womb of the mother. Was it present before the point of fertilization? Answer is yes. That fertilization takes place in the matter. But if the consciousness is not present before, the baby cannot be conscious. Come on. Matter cannot convert into a consciousness. Well, if it can convert into a consciousness, then let the scientist put the same amount of protein, carbohydrate, minerals which is present in my body, and let me give them all the right amount of protein, carbohydrate, minerals that is present in this body on a table. Let the scientist create that, convert that matter into a consciousness. It's not possible at all. It will never be possible. It will never be possible. So it means parents provided a medium for my physical birth. But I'm consciousness, which was already present before. So I disproved that there is no date of birth. So if there is no date of birth, there is no death of the what we say? There is no date of death. No, we say RIP, rest in peace. So there is no rest in peace. We are always in rest. Is there a birth of the real self? Answer is no. Answer is no. The cause of the ultimate cause of this body enlivened mine enlivens because of the real self. And now go back to the sixth definition. It is eternal, it is all pervading. It is free from objectification, it is truth. And it does not undergo any the sixth modification. So if it does not go any sixth modification, so obviously it has to be a real self. There is another point. Real self is a subjective reality. It cannot be an objective reality. All we have discussed until about the real false self is objective reality. Objective reality means I know mouse, I know you, I know the painting, I know the screen, I know the monitor, I know my honey. So I know means that object I know is in front of me. It is through the mind and the sense organ. But can I put myself in front of me? Then I say, here is I am. Then who recognizes I am? So there are two I am. I have created an objectified I am. That is a very deeper understanding. So I cannot have two I, one. Then if I have two I, then which one is the real I? So that is why we say it cannot be objectified. It is a subjective reality. What I said, what is this? I simply say it is a mouse. But in the presence of the light, light is also present. Light of the consciousness going through my eyes, which I forget, because that is an objectification. I forget that consciousness knows that this is a mouse. So that is, consciousness can only know consciousness by itself. Then how to know that real self? Real self knows by real self by itself. How do you say? How do you say? In the presence of the sunlight, I see all the objectified world. Should I need to bring a candle to see the sun? Sun lights itself by the sun. I know the sun by its own light. So the real self knows itself by its own conscious light. Own conscious light. Lot of stuff. Another way to understand, so make the things clear, we have to do the repeat listening to see where we are. So contemplation and reflection should remove lot of doubt, and then we will meet. I was little faster, but it's okay. Sometimes we need to be faster to check how mind is receptive or if it is not, even though I will be constantly uh, repeating, repetition is required, that I'll be doing.